ground. When I was contemplating what's the next set of topics to discuss, there's too many. So I mentioned one, prayers of Prahlad, but I'd like to know what you all would like. So I'm going to make it difficult for you. You have to decide what you like. Do you have an idea what you'd like? Huh? No? Well, here's some choices. Canto 10, Chapter 14 are prayers by Prahlad Maharaj. Prayers of Lord Brahma. That's one option. Then another option is prayers of Prahlad. Canto 7, Chapter 10, I think it is, 11. His prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. We could discuss another option is Grandfather Bhishma's instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj, chapter 9, because Queen Kunti's is chapter 8. So Grandfather Bhishma's instructions to Yudhishthira is chapter 9. Dhritarashtra quits home, chapter 13. Krishna's killing of the demons in Vrindavan. Too many choices, right? Krishna killing? Krishna killing the demons in Vrindavan. Huh? Brahma's prayers? Okay, let's do this. I'll start with Brahma's prayers, and then some other time when I come we can mix them. But it's nice to go through a sequence because they're all they're connected. The message of Lord Brahma. So here we go. Somebody knows how to get this thing started? Okay. So let's turn this light out. Just pull the cord. And then this one over here. You can all see? Yes? Similar to Krishna giving teachings to Arjuna. Arjuna is in a very special category. He's an eternal associate of Krishna. Arjuna is not a post. Brahma is a post. In different entities, in different creations, they occupy the post of Brahma, one per universe. But there's one Arjuna per Krishna. There's one Arjuna. He's eternal associate of Krishna. But even Arjuna became bewildered by Krishna's arrangement so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. The perfect recipient of Krishna's message is Krishna's devotee, Arjuna. Here comes the garland ritual. Okay. So Brahma, similarly, he is very, very special. He's so special that if there isn't somebody qualified to take the post of Brahma, Krishna takes the post of Brahma, because the post is so important. He's very dear to Krishna, and most exalted person. Certainly in our sampradaya, we regard Brahma in that way. He's the original receiver of all the Vedas, the preceptor of Narada Muni, and who is the preceptor of Vyas, who compiled the Vedas. And so he's exceptionally exceptional. And at the same time, he engages in an activity, we're going to hear shortly, an activity that puts him in a stage of bewilderment. And then he speaks some very wonderful prayers after that, following that bewilderment. So, from the very beginning of creation, of each universe, again and again and again, Lord Brahma is the firstborn, Aja. Aja meaning he's not born from mother, he's born from the body of the Supreme Lord directly. And he then undergoes this tapa, or the long duration, there's different numbers assigned within the Bhagavatam, but thousands of years of penance or tapa. And his penance or tapa, as the painting shows, it's chanting of mantra that one of the two mantras he receives is directly from Krishna's flute. And as Krishna plays his flute, it enters Brahma's ear, and it comes out his mouth in the form of Kama Gayatri. So he meditates on this Kama Gayatri for thousands of years and becomes enlightened. In the language of Brahma Samhita, he becomes well acquainted with the ocean of truth. And that ocean of truth, that's the Vedas. And he speaks certain prayers. Brahma Samhita includes some of those prayers, detailing how Krishna is the source, or Govinda is the source of everything. And this is even before he begins his activities of creating the universe and manifesting of the Vedas. So, most important in our line, and there's a wonderful pastime described in the 13th chapter of Canto 10 that results in prayers from the 14th chapter of Canto 10. So that's what we're going to be discussing. Now, here he is kneeling before the personality of Godhead, Krishna. What leads up to this is every morning Krishna goes herding the cows with Balaram and the cowherd boys. This is from Brihat Bhagavatamrita, where Mother Jasoda, just due to her motherly affection, she can't bear the separation from Krishna for the whole day. So in many different ways she comes forward and adjusts Krishna's garments and gives him some extra kichoris and tightens his belt and tells Balaram to look after him, and things that mothers do with their children. And every time Krishna smiles and says, "Mother, we have to go to the forest now. It's time." They herd the cows. And so he goes off herding the cows. But this chapter 13 says it's not really that they herded the cows, because the cows have such the cows have such affection for Krishna that they just follow Krishna. Wherever Krishna goes, they go. And what the cowherd boys do is they just play all day long. They're playing with one another, and the cows are following Krishna and Balaram, the cowherd boys, as they're playing. So sometimes they make like birds that are about to fly. Sometimes they look like peacocks that are spreading their tail. Sometimes they look like frogs that are getting ready to jump. Sometimes they play hide and seek. Sometimes they steal, this is Madhu Mangal, they steal one of the cowherd boys' lunches, and then the cowherd boy goes running for his lunch, and they throw that lunch to another cowherd boy who goes running after his lunch to the other cowherd boy, and he smiles and laughs and throws to another cowherd boy, and they just have fun. Transcendental loving exchange. Looks like little children. Sometimes Krishna sits underneath a tree and plays upon his flute, and the cowherd boys are just totally mesmerized hearing the wonderful sound of Krishna's flute. And with further details in this way, they're simply enjoying sporting activities like little boys, but it's the personality of Godhead and his pure devotee associates. And on this particular day, they saw something very strange that they had never seen before. At the same path that they often go, going around Govardhan Hill, they saw a humongous serpent. But they didn't see it as a serpent. It looked like a big cave with the serpent with the top of his mouth up into the sky. And the cowherd boy said, "We've never seen a cave like this here before. Let's go and explore." And as they started to go in, they smelled this bad fishy smell. And they concluded, this isn't a cave, this is a big serpent lying on the path. But anyway, Krishna has always protected us, let's go. And they started going inside the mouth of the Aghasura demon. And as Krishna saw, this is a nice detail, Krishna saw the cowherd boys entering the mouth of the Aghasura demon, and he became, for a moment, influenced by his own Yogamaya potency. He became bewildered. He was thinking, how would they bear separation from me? When we're walking through the forest, if there's just a tree between myself and one of the cowherd boys, and for a fraction of a minute, a fraction of a moment, they can't see me, they feel great difficulty. So how is it going to be if they enter into the mouth of this big serpent and they won't be able to see me? How will they survive? So Krishna was influenced by his own Yogamaya potency for his own pleasure, for a moment. But then he knew exactly what to do. He regained his regular consciousness, and he also entered the mouth of the Aghasura demon. And as the Aghasura demon saw him enter, he closed his big mouth. Krishna exhibited one of his mystic powers. He just became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the demon expanded his serpent body bigger and bigger, but eventually Krishna became bigger. And the serpent suffocated, and the soul of Aghasura escaped through his head. The mouth opened, Krishna and all the cowherd boys exited from the serpent, and the soul of Aghasura merged into the body of Krishna. And the cowherd boys were really happy. Wow, Krishna, you did it again. Let's go have lunch. And Brahma was watching all this because he had come to visit and take darshan of Krishna performing his wonderful pastimes in Vrindavan, and seeing this wonderful pastime. And then after that, Krishna sitting in a circle of cowherd boys, and they're just behaving like little children. So he was puzzled, and he began to consider. Brahma, who resides in the higher planetary system in the sky, had observed the activities of the most powerful Krishna in killing and delivering Aghasura, and he was astonished. Now that same Brahma wanted to show some of his own power and see the power of Krishna, who was engaged in his childhood pastimes, playing as if with ordinary cowherd boys. Therefore, in Krishna's absence, Brahma took all the boys and calves to another place. Thus he became entangled, for in the very near future he would see how powerful Krishna was. So the commentary says he was just pondering, what's the extent of Krishna's power? I'm very powerful, but is there some limit to Krishna's power? So he devised a plan. And the plan was, while they were sitting, taking their lunch, the calves started grazing and going some distance from where the scene was. And so Brahma took all the calves and put them in a cave. And when the calves were missing, the cowherd boys looked around and saw the calves were missing. And so they said, we have to go find the calves. Our occupation is protecting the calves. So Krishna said, don't worry. You finish your lunch. I'll go find the calves and bring them back. So while Krishna was gone and the cowherd boys were sitting, Brahma took the cowherd boys and put them in another cave and covered the cave with a big rock so they couldn't get out. And then it looks like the same cave. And then he went back to the scene of the crime. Criminals do that sometimes. Just to see what would happen. What would Krishna do? And when he went back, he was amazed. He saw Krishna was sitting there with all the calves and all the cowherd boys. So he was confused. He went back and looked in the cave, and there they were in the cave. Then he went back again, and there they were having lunch with Krishna underneath a tree. So he couldn't understand what was happening. And then suddenly, mystically, for each of the each of the calves and each of the cowherd boys, Krishna manifested at the same time, as you see from the painting, the cows and the cowherd boys, or the calves and the cowherd boys, forms of Lord Narayan. And surrounding each one of these forms of Lord Narayan, all the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded by the opulences headed by animosity, by the mystic practices, potencies, headed by Aja, by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by each one, headed by the Mahatattva. Then Brahma saw that Kala, Swabhava, Samskara, Kama, Karma, and the Gunas, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were also worshipping these Vishnu Murtis. And this is for each one of the calves and cowherd boys, a form of Narayana or Vishnu Murti, and big cacophony of sound as they're glorifying him. The phrase in the Bhagavatam in this connection is, Krishna was showing his inconceivable opulence. Now, Brahma wanted to see what's the extent of Krishna's powers? He was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed. He fell on the ground before Krishna. Then all of a sudden all these Vishnu forms and all the other personalities, they disappeared. And there was Krishna smiling. His left hand extended, because he still had some yogurt and fruit in his hand, and ready to eat. Just looking at Brahma, smiling. So Brahma understood that he had been shown some amazing opulence of Krishna. And we'll just begin the first part of Brahma's prayers from chapter 14. The theme of them is how to know something that's unknowable and has unlimited potencies. So his prayers begin this way, and I've done it color-coded so you can see within the text which phrase applies to which translation. Idyate, Brahma said, my dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord. He's the son of the king of the cowherds. His transcendental body is dark blue, like a new cloud. His garment is brilliant like lightning. The beauty of his face is enhanced by his gunja earrings and the peacock feather on his head. He's wearing garlands of various lotus flowers and leaves. He's equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute. And he's standing before Brahma beautifully with a morsel of food in his hand. So there's the scene, just as the artist depicted, just as Brahma is describing. Krishna wondering, I'm a cowherd boy. Why are you worshipping me? You're Lord Brahma. Brahma literally means you're the greatest, most powerful, most knowledgeable, all-knowing person in the universe. That's who you are. Why you're offering your obeisances to me? Second verse. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I can understand your all-spiritual personal form. I cannot understand your all-spiritual personal form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself? So this is this theme of understanding the unknowable. Because Brahma's capacity is for us even totally inconceivable. I mean, take anything, anything within creation, and how did he do it? Like, create a brain, or create a mosquito. Prabhupada challenged the scientist. Create one mosquito, I challenge you. One mosquito, just one. Not millions, just one. And a mosquito that can fly up and down and left and right and forwards and backwards. And can reproduce itself. Make one mosquito. Or anything. Anything. The further science goes with its advancements of technology, there's the recognition it's just beyond our capacity. They can replicate something to some extent, but they're replicating something that already exists. Yes, that's Prabhupada's point over and over again. What's the great credit to make a robot that represents something that's already there? So what about, if the scientist is so smart to create a robot, what about the robot, that which it's resembling? The creator of unlimited living entities that have far more intelligence than the robot. And whatever intelligence the robot has, through artificial intelligence, it's derived from the person who created the robot. And where's the person who created the person? Give credit where credit is due. So Brahma has this capacity. I mean, those of you that have a career, how many years of study did you do to get, supposing you're an IT person, and what do you know about IT is one little piece of the total of IT. And what's the intelligence behind RNA and DNA? According to the scientists, there's more information in the strands of RNA and DNA than any computer that Microsoft has ever made, or any software program that Microsoft has ever made. So where's the intelligence behind that one? And Brahma is finding, I can't possibly understand the limit of your capacity. So if I can't understand the limit of your capacity, how am I going to understand the happiness that you feel? I desire to examine the extent of your potency. I desire to understand how you will react to my showing my power. In turn, you have shown such mercy to me by giving me a glimpse of who you actually are. He's humbling. Krishna doesn't like pride in the heart of his devotee. So he humbles Indra. Here he's humbling Brahma. He even humbles the gopis. Krishna doesn't like pride in the hearts of the devotees. So he'll kindly help us become free from pride. How can one estimate something that is unlimited, which can produce unlimited entities, each having unlimited potencies? Inconceivable. So, a theme in these prayers, similar to a theme in the prayers of Queen Kunti, is, but the process of Gyan is insufficient. It's a theme of the Bhagavatam. It's an essential part of the message of bhakti. Anyabhilasha shunyam jnana karmajyanavratam. That same verse again. Bhakti is without speculative knowledge. Bhakti is without fruitive activities aimed at getting some objects of sense gratification. So the Gyan process is insufficient, and the bhakti process is needed in order to understand the unknowable, because when the unknowable discloses, as he did, he disclosed himself to Brahma, then he's knowable. And who could have the Gyan capacity like Brahma? None of us. No way. Next prayer. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social position, varnashram, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquers your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. You recognize this verse? Gyane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukhaditam bhavadiya bhartan. There's this discussion that took place between Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone here not familiar with that passage of Chaitanya Charitamrita? You're all familiar. Not familiar, okay. You know who is Ramananda Roy? No. You know who is Lord Chaitanya? Lord Chaitanya. So, when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he was just 24 years old. And he was planning to go to Vrindavan. He disclosed that to his friends. But after he had taken sannyas, he was tricked. Some details. He was tricked by Lord Nityananda to go to the house of Advaitacharya so that all the residents of Navadvip could see him before he went to Vrindavan, because they might not see him ever again. So an arrangement was made for Mother Sachi to come and see him. And Mother Sachi, his mother, pleaded with him, don't go to Vrindavan. You want to go to see Krishna in Vrindavan, but Krishna is in Puri also. And the devotees from Bengal, they go back and forth to Puri every year to attend the Rath Yatra. And if you stay in Puri, where there's Krishna also, then I'll get news of you every year. And maybe sometimes you'll come back to take bath in the Ganges, and I'll see you personally. So please don't go to Vrindavan. Go to Puri. So on the request of his mother, he went to Puri. He stayed there for several months, and then after several months, he expressed a desire to go search for his brother. He had an older brother named Vishwarup, who had taken sannyas, and after taking sannyas, he had gone to South India. So Lord Chaitanya took permission from the devotees in Puri, and he set off to 2 years, traveling in South India, on the pretext of looking for his brother, who had already passed away. But he didn't say that. I want to go find my brother. It was to give the bhakti process to people of South India, as he was very capable of doing. And so, before he left, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, you've heard his name? Okay. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, there's one person, my one request is please see Ramananda Roy. He's the governor of Madras, then bigger than just the city at that time, part of the kingdom of the king Prataparudra. And I used to think he's a sentimentalist, but that's because my heart was very hard. Now I understand he's the most exalted person in the science of bhakti rasa. So when you do your South India travel, make sure that you see him somehow. And Lord Chaitanya agreed. So there was this meeting, that's what this painting is illustrating, where Ramananda Roy, he's actually an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya, but he's appearing as meeting for the first time, and they're ecstatic seeing each other. And an arrangement, there's in the background are because he's the governor, so the ministers don't understand this relationship between the governor and the sadhu. So they make an arrangement to meet that evening. And when they meet that evening, their talks of Krishna go as follows. Ramananda Roy is asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please tell me, sannyasi asking a governor, please tell me what is the goal of life and how to achieve it. That's where their conversation started. And so there's a very famous section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, And different suggestions are made. Ramananda Roy is highly learned, so he states the principle and then gives the scriptural quote. One is following Varnashram for the purpose of satisfying Vishnu, and quotes the verse from Vishnu Purana that states that. Lord Chaitanya says that's external, go further. Yad karoshi yadasnasi yajjahosi dadasi yad. That verse from Bhagavad Gita, offer everything to Krishna. He says, no, go further. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Go further. And these are our favorite verses in Bhagavad Gita. But Lord Chaitanya says, go further, go further. And finally, he accepts this one verse that we just saw. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. It's a very important verse. It's the goal of life and how to achieve it. So we'll just go over it again. The negative is leaving aside, throwing away the process of speculative knowledge. Jnane prayasa. Prayasa means endeavor. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. And jivanti, with their body, mind, and words, offering respect, sammukaritam bhavadiya vartan. One should engage in the hearing process. Shruti, gatan. You hear about what? Hear about the topics of Krishna. And stane, statak, very important. Same as Bhagavad Gita. Stane, statak, stay in your position. So, your householders, in order to become advanced in Krishna consciousness, come forward, please, because we're going to be reading from the screen. If you don't mind, please come forward. Stane statak means stay in your position. In order to become advanced in spiritual life, you don't have to become a renunciate. Followers of Shankaracharya say the opposite. If you're going to make any spiritual advancement, the first thing you got to do is take sannyas. And if you don't take sannyas, you can't make any spiritual advancement. You're too bad for you. So you have to karma sannyas is their notion. But Brahma says, stane statak. Krishna says, Arjuna, you stay as a householder and engage in your prescribed duty. And always think of me. So, Bhagavatam teaches the same thing. Stay in your position. This is Brahma speaking, but he's speaking the truths that have been revealed to him by Krishna. But one's life then becomes dedicated to the narrations of Krishna Katha. Not only hearing, but then applying them. And, living with the sound vibration. And when one does that, ye prayaso ajita, the same word prayasa, as is in the first line. Jnane prayasam, not rejected, but endeavoring to act in one's relationship with ajita, the unconquerable Supreme Lord, he becomes conquered. It's a contradiction. But he who is unconquerable becomes conquered by one who dedicates themselves to hearing the topics of the personality of Godhead. From whatever your position, stay in your position. So, one more time. The negation is endeavoring for speculative knowledge and staying in your position. The positive is staying in your position, but dedication to the process of hearing. The bhakti process is so this is Ramananda Roy is saying this is the means, and Lord Chaitanya said, and the perfection. Lord Chaitanya says, yes, this is correct. Pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge, is the essence of perfection. That's how he describes this verse, Ramananda Roy. He recites the verse and Lord Chaitanya accepts. There's a very similar teaching found in the Hamsa avatar. That's Hamsa avatar standing there. And he's giving instructions to Lord Brahma, and by Brahma's feet are the 4 Kumaras. So his teaching is, essentially, if we don't see the factual relationship between matter and Krishna, we're not seeing accurately. So, all things have their connection with Krishna. If we don't see the connection of all things with Krishna, we're not seeing things accurately. One more time. It's the hearing Krishna Katha cleanses the heart. And as the heart becomes cleansed, we can start to see things that otherwise we can't see. And we can see things because they're revealed to us, not by our knowledge capacity, but by reciprocation from Krishna, who reciprocates with those whose hearts are pure by taking up the bhakti process. We have access to Krishna revealed understandings that otherwise we won't. In this section, this is again Lord Chaitanya meeting with Ramananda Roy, the Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything, mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Now this is the topmost position. We're not there, but we're getting a picture from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his exchange with Ramananda Roy, what that topmost position is, which Brahma understands. Here's something that Prabhupada said. The Krishna-conscious person does not see the tree, but sees Krishna present. That is, Krishna consciousness. You don't see the tree, you see Krishna. Now, what does that mean? You're like, I took a walk today, the weather was really nice. And there's lots of different trees, and I've noticed they have these little black, I don't know, tubes or watering the tree little things they put in the ground. So I don't know who controls that, the city, and then when it gets dry they turn the water on and the trees get watered. Is that how it works? The city controls it.
Yes, for the common road, city controls.
Okay. So I saw lots of trees, and I was thinking of this verse. So it doesn't mean you don't see the tree. Literally, you don't see the tree. You don't just see, there's Krishna, there's playing his flute in a threefold bending form. And then the next Krishna, threefold bending form, holding his flute. And it's not like that. But you don't just see the tree. You see behind the tree, or remotely, the personality of Godhead has manifest this tree. The tree would not be there if it weren't for the source of the tree. So behind the manifestation is the source of that manifestation. One sees Krishna there, within all things. That's but it's not a mental adjustment or a matter of knowledge, and you put that in your hard drive and install it in your program, and then you can see that one. It's devotion. Knowledge alone is not enough. There's this nice description. This is a painting of Sanatana Goswami. Freedom is possible only by understanding Brahman. Sanatana Goswami's comment on this verse from Lord Brahma's prayers. Question, if that's the case, then how can an ignorant person attain liberation? Should I do it again? The question is clear. Sanatana Goswami is posing. It's like a Purva Paksha. Someone, a contrarian, may say, freedom is possible only by understanding a Brahman. Well, wait a minute. If that's the case, then what about people that don't have the capacity to understand Brahman? They're not big intellectuals. So are they forever doomed unless you become a big intellectual? And the answer, this verse answers that question. No. You don't have to be a big intellectual to understand Brahman. You have to be a devotee. Then you can understand Para-Brahman, the personality of Godhead, and from understanding the personality of Godhead, then you'll understand Brahman, because that's an aspect of the absolute truth. Clear? Okay. By the hearing process, we develop such a loving, trusted relationship with Krishna that he will say, I am like this. You wanted to see me as I am. You wanted to serve me. Such a deep desire for so long. And I have tested you so many times, and you only chose me. Now, here I am. Because Brahma's not an ordinary, we said this at the beginning, he's not an ordinary fellow. He's, according to the Bhagavatam, one must, to achieve the post of Brahma, 100 lifetimes flawlessly execute duties of Varna and Ashram. Then you're qualified. Do you ever make mistakes? We're not going to become Brahma. He's way up there. He's exceptionally qualified. And from time to time, qualified persons are tested. Prabhupada, I remember hearing Prabhupada say like this. Krishna considers, oh, you say you want to be with me. Are you sure? What about a little sense gratification? Then the devotee says, no, I only want Krishna. So maybe you really do want me. What about some difficulty? If I give you some difficulty, do you still want me? And the devotee will say, whatever the difficulty is, I don't mind, I simply want you. Oh, they really want me, then I will give myself to them. Prabhupada speaking like that. So he's, again, saying this here. Brahma had passed through, who knows, lifetimes worth of qualifying himself and being examined by Krishna and so forth. And so Krishna understands, he really means it. And same for us. Sincerity means we really mean it. It's not a conditional, I really mean it, provided the following 5, 10, 100 things. It's just unconditional, I want to be in Krishna's association. So when Krishna sees that kind of dedication and devotion, then as he did with Brahma, he gave himself. That's what Brahma said in this earlier prayer. You've been so kind to me. I was challenging you, and you then disclosed to me who you really are. You've given me this opportunity to understand the unlimited. O Krishna, O Ajita, you are conquered by this path. Let me say more about this glorious process in contrast to Gyan. So these earlier verses, it's making, as I said at the very beginning, it's extolling the special position of bhakti. The most intelligent person in the universe is extolling the position of bhakti. Shreyak shatim bhaktim udasya te vibho kleshanti te kevala bodha labdhaye. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone, another famous verse, if someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. Kleshanti ye kevala bodha labdhye. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. You've heard Prabhupada use this expression before if you've listened to his recorded lectures. There's wheat that's on the stalk, but once you remove the wheat, you just have the chaff, and you can thrash the chaff all you like, and you're not going to get any grain because it's already removed. And the only thing you get is trouble and misery, but no labdhaye, no attainment of the purpose of that effort. Bhakti provides the fruit of that effort, and the speculative process does not. Authoritatively, Brahma is asserting. O Almighty Lord, in the past, many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service by offering all their endeavors unto you and faithfully carried out their prescribed duties. Through such devotional service, perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you, they came to understand you, O Infallible One, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. So in this third line, Upanitaya, wait a minute, what happened? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you. Kato Upanitaya. We're going to just go up till text 8. We have just 3 remaining. So text 6. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. Interesting, huh? Let me read it again. So the bhakti process is being extolled. Now here's those that don't have bhakti, the non-devotees. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. Neutrality. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conception to material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. So, all conceptions of material distinctions. All conceptions of material distinctions. That's a word that we're used to in ISKCON is upadi, sarvupadi vanir muktam tat paratvaina nirmalam. It's a definition of the bhakti found in Narada Pancharatra, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Many of you are familiar with that verse. So there's an object and there's a designation superimposed upon the object. I learned this one from studying Jiva Goswami's writings. The classic example of what an upadhi is a pond or a body of water, a puddle or a lake or whatever that covers land. So actually it's land, and just this puddle or lake or pond is covering the land. So we say it's a lake. But that's just identifying the covering, and beneath the covering is that which supports the pond or the lake or the puddle, which is the land. So the basis and support is the thing that's behind it, and the thing that's superimposed on top of it is the upadhi. Yes? But we relate according to upadhis. You know, the designation of in our ISKCON frame of reference, the body. You know, this is an American body, and some of you are from India, but some of your children are born in America, so they're American Indians. Or something like that. You know, it's just all designation. And it's the world of designations. I won't go. I could spend a half an hour complaining about how we're just hooked up to, we're trained, we're disciplined, we're successful if we operate in that realm of designations. I'll just mention one. Because I travel a lot, I've taken the trouble of getting a global entry status for when you do international travel. I don't have to go through all that immigration stuff. But you have to see your fingerprints, because that tells who you are. And they've already got the information of how tall you are, what your color eyes are, and where you live, and that's who you are. And now they have this thing, and they can see within the iris of your eye whether you are who you say you are. But that's not who you are. But it's the world of designations. And to navigate your way through this territory, you have to know the game. You have to know who you aren't, and say that's who you are. If you say who you are, you'll fail, or you won't be part of the system. When I turned 65, I was advised you should get Medicaid, because then you have, if medical problem, you're covered. So you have to go and it's this long ordeal and sit there and be interviewed. And so one of the questions they asked is, have you taken a vow of poverty? Because and I forget exactly the way that it goes, but they ask you the question so they can put it in their form, but it really doesn't matter. Because if you're going to get Medicaid, what's your income? Whether you've taken a vow of poverty or you're just a poor person, whether you have income or not, that's what really counts. Do you have a bank account? What's money's in the bank account? But it's just a designation thing. I'm bringing it up for that reason. The status, stane statak, stay in your position, is what's required is not that you renounce all your worldly possessions. And that's a phrase that's used in the West, by the way, because to become a member of the Catholic Church that becomes a nun, they take a vow of poverty. They even take a vow that says, I married Christ. See, they'll not become married. Nuns are supposed to be not married. And priests also. They can't say they married Christ. That would be cool. But a vow of celibacy and a vow of poverty to become a monk. So to be part of this tradition, you have to become a monk, take a vow of renouncing all worldly possessions. So, no. You just have to renounce the misconception that you have worldly possessions to renounce. Householders can also take that position. Stane statak. That is, everything is dedicated to Krishna's service. It may have my name on the bank account, or may have my name on the deed, and the mortgage, and the electric bill, and the taxes. It has my name on these things, but it's not mine. I'm serving on behalf of Krishna, using the resources of Krishna in Krishna's service. That's who I am. But the game says upadi. So to become, what the verse is saying is, to get to this, if they're lacking in devotion, they won't know Krishna. But if they can come to the Brahman level, they have to get free from this upadi consideration, or avikriyat, the conception of all material distinctions. It's all one. And not just in notion, but in fact. There's this little story. It's in, believe it's in Guru Das's book, this little biography of Prabhupada, that he was attending a function, and a Mayavadi was speaking and Prabhupada was speaking, and the Mayavadi took exception that how Prabhupada was speaking bhakti and saying, after all, it's all one. And so Guru Das challenged the man. It was at Kumbh Mela or something like that. It was really cold at night. He said, if it's all one, then give me your chadar, because it's cold. So he, wrapped himself up in the man's chadar along with his own blanket. And the man woke him up in the middle of the night, said, I understood your point. It's not all one. Give me my chadar back. Something like that. People say it's all one, or I'm not functioning with any acknowledgement of material distinctions, but they don't live their life that way. It's notional only. It's verbiage only. It's not how people live their life. It's all one. One of Jayadvaita Maharaja's favorite stories, I've heard it maybe 15 times, is when he was young, Prabhupada engaged him in editing. He trained him how to be an editor. And so there was a girl from uptown that was attending an uptown Swami's class, but came to Prabhupada's class, with a big happy smile all the time. And she would sit throughout Prabhupada's class with the same big happy smile. And one time, she asked a question saying, Swamiji, isn't it true that in the final analysis it's all one? And Prabhupada leaned forward and raised his voice and said, it's all one. It's all one. Then why do you put food here? You should put food here. And he said it again, and the girl burst out crying, and Jayadvaita Maharaj was laughing and laughing. It's all one. We don't live that way. It's notional. It's talk. So how does one do that? Practically speaking. So devotional service is a nice idea, how to practically live devotional service. Well, it is practical. The teaching is very practical, and the impersonal teaching is very impractical. You can't live that way. It's all one. Another famous one is once Prabhupada was told by Mayavadi, it's all one. And he grabbed the man's shirt, said, why don't you wear a cotton ball if it's all one? Why are you wearing kurta? Why are you wearing a chadar? It's all one. Wear a cotton ball. We don't live our lives that way. It's notional. So to come to that stage of Brahman realization, it's not easy. They can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. Text number 7. In time, learned philosophers or scientists, another famous verse, might be able to count all of the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, stars, and other luminaries. But among these learned men who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities. The Gyan process is insufficient. One may be very, 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 very exceptionally gifted. It's insufficient. This is a painting of Krishna speaking with Uddhava. Now, normally we don't see Uddhava with a beard, but this painting has him with a beard. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful? Uddhava speaks like that about Krishna. Here's Krishna speaking to Uddhava in a BBT painting with Maitreya in the background hearing. The reference is when Vidura comes after Krishna has spoken Uddhava Gita to Uddhava. Vidura comes and asks Uddhava, how is Krishna? He sees him alone in the forest of Vrindavan. And Uddhava's reply, you have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give to these devotees of Vrindavan, whose very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? Now, this is a later verse spoken by Brahma in this 10th canto, chapter 14. Krishna gives himself to his devotees. So he gives himself so much to Putana that he puts her in a position of becoming a resident of the spiritual world, assisting Mother Jasoda. How is he going to reciprocate with the love of his devotees? So the reference in this verse is Sakula, along with her family members. So Putana had some family members. Who are the family members? Bakasura is one, and Agasura is the other. So they're two brothers and a sister. And he gave his special mercy to Bakasura. He allowed himself, his body, to go inside the beak of Bakasura. He purified Bakasura that way. And then after purifying Bakasura, he bifurcated his beak and finished him. There's the cowherd boys with their sticks trying to help Krishna. And when Krishna entered the mouth of Agasura, the demigods hidden behind the clouds exclaimed, alas, alas. But the friends of Agasura, like Kamsa and other demons, were jubilant. So he gave his mercy to Aghasura by entering into the mouth of Aghasura and purifying him that way, even before he gave him this Sayuja Mukti. So then the verse is saying, what to speak of the residents of Vrindavan, who have such perfect, pure love. How are you going to reciprocate with them? Mother Jasoda, Nanda Maharaj, and the young gopis, when Krishna returns back from the pasturing grounds with the cowherd boys, the gopis headed by, we know who Radharani is, she's wearing the crown in the front. How are you going to reciprocate with the love of these devotees? So Vishwanath says, Brahma is speaking like this. You have unlimited qualities, and each of them are expandable to unlimited degree. Yet, the impersonalist does not and cannot realize these qualities. Try to conceive of what unlimitedly beautiful means. How beautiful is unlimitedly beautiful? How attractive is unlimitedly attractive? How compassionate is unlimitedly compassionate? Brahma understands these capacities. And we have just one more verse. Now I wish to describe both the internal and the external activities of bhakti. So this is the final verse for this evening. Very famous verse, Tatenu kampam susamikshamano. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So, there's destiny or fate. Some persons have this idea. I don't know what a crystal ball is, but there's one. And they can read what the future is going to hold. So when some misdeed comes, it's destined. Or good fortune is also destined. It's going to come. And how are we going to understand the hand of fate? When, this is Prithu Maharaj, when Lord Vishnu came at the time of Maharaj Prithu's installation, he spoke like this, Yata chared balahitam pita swayam. As a father, not waiting for the son's demand, does everything for the benefit of the son, please bestow upon me whatever you think is best for me. That's Prithu speaking to Lord Vishnu. Vishnu came, he knows Vishnu wants to give him some benediction, so he's saying, whatever you think is best. That's the mood of Brahma, because he's done a bad thing. He not only interrupted Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, he kidnapped the calves and the cowherd boys. He's completely bad. So he knows there's going to be something coming. So whatever that's something that's coming, let me accept that's something that's coming. This destiny that's coming my way, I'm not going to try to counteract it, neutralize it, dodge it, run away from it, stick my head in the sand, ignore it. Let it come. Whatever that is going to come, let it come. And one of the things that I don't want to do is let my mind become dissuaded for a moment from your lotus feet. Similar display of this is in the story of King Chitraketu. That's the Vimana up in the left-hand corner of Chitraketu coming to visit his friend. That's how elevated was Chitraketu, that Lord Shiva was his friend. Not his worshipable deity, but his friend. And he spoke in a certain way that Parvati understood wrongly, that he was criticizing Lord Shiva, and so she cursed him. And he just accepted it. And in his very next life, he went back to Godhead, because his heart didn't move 1 inch from that position of Narayana Parayana. So, at the end of the Indra's offense, similarly, Indra's pride was removed, and he was at the feet of Krishna, offering similar prayers. So, when wrong deeds are done, destiny will come. Even Indra's a devotee, and these other personalities mentioned, they're devotees. But in the case of an elevated devotee like King Chitraketu or Lord Brahma, it's not karma, it's something that I take some wrong action, I'm responsible for my action. Here's Prabhupada speaking about this verse from Nectar Devotion. This statement of Srimad Bhagavatam should be the guide of all the devotees. That is the only solace. If the devotee passes his days in that spirit, it is certain that he is going to be promoted to the abode of the Lord. And Jiva Goswami's comment on this verse, all you have to do is simply be alive. Jivanti. Alive in devotion. Alive and awake in relationship with Krishna. Qualified. And Vishwanath's commentary, now that other processes have been rejected and bhakti accepted as the process to attain Bhagavan, the process of bhakti is described. That's the what part. The devotee understands that the happiness and distress that he experiences due to performing bhakti and committing aparads are the mercy of the Lord. It is like that father who sometimes makes his child drink milk and sometimes makes him drink bitter neem juice, and sometimes embraces and kisses him and sometimes beats him. The devotee thinks that this is the arrangement of the Lord working for his benefit. Quote, the Lord knows and I do not know. Karma and time have no effect on the devotee, so it is his personal arrangement. By his mercy, he sometimes gives me happiness and sometimes gives me distress, considering how to engage me in his service. So it's a very important instruction, because life has its difficulties. We all know. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but that's usually something. Sometimes it's really, severe, calamitous. At least it feels like it or seems like it. But the position that Brahma is teaching is a very important verse, and the understanding of why and how the devotee takes this position. It's just Krishna is merciful, and the merciful nature of Krishna will come through, although we may not see it in the moment. We see the difficulty. So, coming up is next visit. Brahma's, these first 8 verses is the glorification of the bhakti process. Brahma's honoring the personality of Godhead and his merciful nature. Describing how the bhakti process is to be taken up, even when we make mistakes. How to continue in the bhakti process despite the mistakes and the reactions that come to, or the circumstances that come from those mistakes. Stay fixed in the bhakti process. Then comes his next set of verses, his apology. chapter 14 of Canto 10. Very, very important verse, this section. These verses are quoted over and over and over by our acharyas and certainly by Prabhupada. Any discussion? Yeah?
Thank you, Maharaj. In relation to that Pratanukampa, like generally, maybe a man, generally, you think like general tendency is like there are so many problems and they need to be resolved, or there are so many things and they need to be taken care of.
Yes.
And on the other side is the process of devotion where we serve Krishna, we engage, and sometimes, at least in my case, I see that I get distracted or carried away in just solving the problems or the issues, and so the other part gets neglected.
Mm-hmm.
So, how to remain fixed?
By being attached to Krishna. The former of the two, option A and option B, the former can be done provided it's in service to Krishna. It's not expected that devotees of Krishna will just throw their hands up in the air with life, or but rather practical activity, practical service. But let the practical service be done mindful of our position in relation to Krishna, not in forgetfulness of our position in relationship with Krishna. I could say the same thing just taking, for example, such and such. One of the things that I've been engaged in conversations, a lot of conversations of late with young people that are considering what college to go to and what career to develop and all that kind of interesting stage of life. So, parents similarly, involved in helping to guide and help their child evaluate this college versus that college, and what are the pluses and minuses of each one, and so on and so on. So it's not that you shouldn't do those things. Not that parents shouldn't do those things, or I shouldn't do those things, or the students themselves, the young devotees shouldn't do those things. They should be done. And they shouldn't be done, but they shouldn't be done to the exclusion or in forgetfulness of Krishna. The difficulty that is leaving the place of shelter and going to take care of the problem or the thing that needs to be attended to. Something that I've noticed, I'll give a for example. So somebody comes with a problem, and you suggest to them, here are some things you might consider for addressing that problem, and out of the ways they like one of them. And then they check out with Krishna and the source of that inspiration of what to do, and they go over there and start taking care of the thing. They lost their Krishna connection. And then after some time they feel weakened again. They were feeling enlivened and propelled. And then, because the Krishna connection is, they turn their back to it. So the option is stay fixed in the Krishna connection zone and serve Krishna in appropriate manner to the circumstance. And don't leave that position. accept the things that need some attention as opportunities for service to Krishna. Now that bhakti dissolves false ego. You're not the doer anymore. You're the instrument of carrying out Krishna's will and Krishna's service. Just, variegated circumstances of service. That's the fruit of bhakti is the false ego is dissolved and the happiness of relationship with Krishna replaces it. So doing something is not the problem. Forgetting Krishna is the problem. Acting through false ego is the problem. And you can't just turn false ego to the off position. It doesn't work like that. That's a mental adjustment. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's artificial. It has to be dissolved. And it has to be dissolved by the bhakti process, and it replaces the false ego with the true sense of self, which is realizable only through bhakti. Because only through bhakti can the false ego be dissolved. Otherwise, we're just, going for a ride. Lifetime after. There's certain things that rule lives of the conditioned soul. It keeps it going, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Even you're a good person, having some conversation with somebody about somebody they know is a really good person. You can be a good person for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So that bhakti can dissolve that which binds us to material existence. But so acting in a diligent, responsible, conscientious way, that's good. Do it for Krishna. And practice it. Abhyasa. Practice chanting japa attentively, and then practice applying yourself in devotion to the things that you do attentively. And it can take a long time, because there's the obstacle is the mind and the false ego. And all the the variations on the theme of all the contaminations that are within the mind. The anarthas in the heart. We just keep bumping into them, and they run our lives, although we think otherwise. It's a prison. And the prison warden is cleverer than conditioned souls. She's very powerful. So she knows where our weak spots are, and just does the rerun. We stay stuck. So bhakti is the medicine, is the cure, it's the path out of that contaminated existence. Yeah.
Maharaj, it seems in the material world there are so many lessons to be learned.
So many lessons to be learned, yeah.
In the way that we see with Lord Brahma, with Indra and Govardhan Hill. So is it that in the spiritual world, those kinds of pastimes where
they're
the
absent.
Are making mistakes
It's absent. That's good news, isn't it? But then we have to be qualified to get there. We can't be unqualified and get there. You have to be qualified to get there. And so there's lessons. That's good. Lessons are good. Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaja ki jai.